Hello and welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, where we attempt to apply logic and reason to religion and politics. I'm here with my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Christy Santiago.
Hi, H-I-G-H people. Happy Friday and happy Juneteenth. And welcome
Happy
to our
Juneteenth.
We have a great show tonight. I think that Juneteenth needs to be celebrated by everyone, and we're spreading it to Australia tonight via our Lord and Savior, Nacho Witness. So we're going to spread Juneteenth everywhere, and it is a celebration of freedom. And I can't wait to show you how excited I am by all the research I did on Juneteenth. It's had a turbulent life. It's been up and down. It's and you'll be able to see the correlation of movements today and how Black Lives Matter. I mean, it's over a decade. You know, it's over 10 years old now. It's not a baby anymore, but it's making a surge through everywhere, through the whole planet. And I think Juneteenth had many times like this, going in and out. Bean has a very big passion for Juneteenth as well. Sorry, guys. If you have my phone, I apologize.
No worries.
Oh my goodness. Mr. Bean, you stop it right now. That works every time. He's so not trying. Oh my goodness. Okay, hold on. You talk for a second. I'll put him outside.
I could talk for a minute. Hi, guys. Welcome. Happy Juneteenth. So we have a few things going on in the world, if you haven't noticed. We have just so much. I'm only going to cover a couple things tonight, and they're going to be kind of brief. We have the decision that the Supreme Court came to concerning Dhaka, which was really exciting. We'll be getting to that tonight. And also, John Bolton came out with a book, and there's a decent amount of controversy that kind of like goes along with it. It's really weird and funny and stupid all at the same time. We'll be getting to that too by the end of the night.
Yeah, we live in a weird time.
2020 is just
very weird time.
2020
I don't want to agree with Michael Bolton's war criminal ass on anything, but I do on some things. So, like Max says, not always black and white. All right, Juneteenth. Mr. Bean is just going to have to hopefully be a good boy, because Stacy is outside waiting for food to arrive, and she cannot. He will attack the food delivery guy. He's this guy. You guys know he's like this big, but he wants to fight everyone. So if anyone has any good suggestions how to train a terrier not to be a terrier, I am open to suggestions. All right, so I'm going to go to the actual Juneteenth worldwide celebration website, because there is a wealth of knowledge right there. And then I have my own. So we're going to start with Juneteenth, and it's a little bit of its history. Go figure, me and history, go figure, right? Juneteenth is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States. That is something I didn't know. Knowing about Juneteenth, I'd have to say in my early 20s was the first time I heard about Juneteenth. It was not celebrated in my high school. It's not something that maybe I was like 23. I remember my girls were very, very little. And they're...
All right. Cat bite. Are we good? Is it safe?
No cat fight. Isabel is here. My daughter's here with her cat. She spends 3 or 4 days with her boyfriend and then comes home for 3 or 4 days every single week. And she brings her cat to and fro. And her cat doesn't have to be touched. She just has to be looked at. That's what you heard.
Okay.
She's freaking out. So no animals were harmed in the making of this production.
Okay, good.
Okay. I know, how funny. It sounded really bad, right? She's the tiniest little kitten. She's like 7-8 months old.
Oh.
Short little. She screams at everyone. She's scared of everything. Okay, Juneteenth, kitty cats. Dating back to 1865, it was on June 19th that the Union soldiers, led by Major General Gordon Granger, landed at Galveston, Texas, with news that the war had ended and that the enslaved were now free. Note that this was 2.5 years later, after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. Tongue twister there. This had become an official January 1st, 1863. So 1865, on June 19th, the slaves in Texas found out that they had been actually free for 2.5 years. That's, to me, I can't imagine. I try to put myself in those shoes, hearing that I had been free for 2.5 years. And I mean, that alone is, I can't. I can't. I think that's another reason why Juneteenth is so special. I think that the Emancipation Proclamation became, a big deal all over the country, obviously, as it should. But it had little impact on the Texans. The whole state of Texas, you got to understand, at this time was kind of like its own thing. It did its own thing. It had its own rules. And, the sheriff was related to the judges, and the judges were related to the cops. And there weren't really cops. It was more like slave patrols. It was a totally different time. The Union troops, the minimal number of Union troops that were there in Texas to enforce the new executive order. So because Texas had so few of these Union troops, that President Lincoln had said, they're all free. Well, if those troops can't make it there to tell the slaves, then they're not going to be told. And you think the slave masters are going to go and tell them? No, they're not. It was an executive order, so they were supposed to follow it, but they didn't. However, with the surrender of General Lee in April of 1865 and the arrival of General Granger's regiment, the forces were finally strong enough to influence and overcome the resistance. Later, attempts to explain this 2.5 year delay in the receipt of this important news have yielded several versions that have been handed down through the years. So I'm going to tell you all of them because nobody knows which one is true. So, often told is the story of a messenger who was murdered on his way to Texas with the news of freedom. Another is that the news was deliberately withheld within the enslavers to maintain the labor force on the plantations, which ding, 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 ding. And still another is that the federal troops actually waited for the slave owners to reap the benefits of one last cotton harvest before going into Texas to enforce the Emancipation Proclamation, which I have to also say, ding, 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 too. Those last two are for sure. All of which, or none of these versions, could be true, actually. Historians have no evidence except for word of mouth passed down from this time. All of which, or none, like I said, could be true. Certainly for some, President Lincoln's authority over the rebellious states was in question at that time. This is also the time where the Dixiecrats are realizing that they don't want to be Democratic in the Democratic Party if that means that they have to support free slaves. And so they start moving into the Republican Party. And from this time in the late 1800s until 1968 was the completion where the parties had completely switched. So, and we can, like I always said, I always want to cover that. Someday we'll cover the switching of the two parties, which I was told recently is a liberal fabrication. Like, oh gosh, I can't. So you can't. Facts are facts, whether you like them or not, unfortunately. Everyone. Okay.
I just want to say I like the term Dixiecrats.
They were that's what they were called. They were the Dixiecrats. Yeah. They were
I didn't know that.
Huge powerful part of the Democratic Party. They were all Southern slave owners or in somehow benefiting from that system. And they refused to, here's this Republican, Lincoln, who wants to not stop slavery. I want everyone to know Lincoln wasn't trying to stop slavery. He was trying to stop it coming into the northern states. And that's a whole nother story. And I don't have the information in front of me to present you with a proper presentation of that. But that part is true. He was not anti-slavery. Europe had eliminated all the slaves. That was illegal in most countries. We were the last, actually. So there was a lot of pressure from a lot of places. General Order Number 3. That's what this is called. Anyone can look up General Order Number 3. And one of the General Granger's first orders of business was to read to the people of Texas General Order Number 3, which began most significantly with, the people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired laborer. So imagine hearing this 2.5 years later. The reaction to this profound news ranged from pure shock to immediate jubilation. While many lingered to learn of this new employer-employee relationship, many left before these offers were completely off the lips of their former masters, attesting to the varying conditions of the plantations and realization of freedom. So you got to understand, it wasn't, slaves had been, emancipating themselves for at least 50 years at this time. We have the Underground Railroad. We have all these things going on to try to get them to safety. So this was just the next step. It wasn't like anyone was being, Flash, the hero. Nobody was being Superman. Nobody was doing things because it's the right thing to do. And I'm not saying nobody. There were people doing things because it was the right thing to do. However, with this particular story, even with nowhere to go, many felt that leaving the plantation would be their first grasp of freedom. North was a logical destination for many, and it represented true freedom. While the desire to reach many family members in neighboring states drove some to Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. And you got to understand that a mother had their babies torn from their hands and sold to other people, and their sisters and their husbands and their mothers, they wanted to go find them. That was the first on many slaves' minds. I have to go find my baby. I have to go find my mother, my husband, my wife. I would be the same way. I would be doing everything to try to hunt them down to be with them again now that we were free.
Yeah.
Settling into these new areas as free men and women brought on new realities and the challenges of establishing a heretofore non-existent status for Black people in America. Recounting the memories of that great day in June of 1865 and its festivities would serve as motivation as well as a release from growing pressures encountered in their new territories. The celebration of June 19th was coined Juneteenth and grew with more participation from descendants. The Juneteenth celebration was a time for measuring each other, for praying. Lots of praying was going on, and the gathering and finding the remaining family members that were still alive. Juneteenth continued to be highly revered in Texas decades later, with many former slaves and descendants making an annual pilgrimage back to Galveston on this date. So there's that. Trump just made it famous. I heard that he made it famous this week, that he made June famous because no one had ever heard of it before him. Sorry, it has nothing to do with my story. I just thought that my jaw can't drop anymore with him. It just can't. I'm just like, seriously, dude.
You say that now, but next week it'll drop.
Oh God, please don't, Mac.
It gets further and further away.
No. I know, and I don't want to become conditioned that, it's just another. I should be outraged at everything he does. All of us should be. At all the wrong things he does. If he does something right, obviously, credit where credit is due. Juneteenth festivities and food. This is very fun, actually. A range of activities were provided to entertain the masses. Remember, they made a pilgrimage back each year. So these activities provided to entertain the masses, many of which continue in tradition to this day. Rodeos, fishing, barbecue, and baseball are just a few of the typical Juneteenth activities you may witness today. Juneteenth almost always focused on education and self-improvement. That's why when I mentioned earlier, they would sit down and talk to each other. Where are you at in life? And what do we need to improve on? And that's what Juneteenth was about. It was about we're free, so we need to do something with it. Thus, often guest speakers are brought in, and elders are called upon to recount the events of the past so that the young never forgot. Prayer services were also a major part of these celebrations. Like I said before, I cannot stress that enough. Every bit of everywhere that I did research for Juneteenth, so much prayer was going down. They was praying. Everyone was praying. It was, a celebration, and they thanked God that they were free. And so I don't want to, as an atheist, take that part out or ignore that part, because it is a huge part of Juneteenth. Certain foods became popular and subsequently synonymous with Juneteenth celebrations, such as strawberry soda pop, which is really delicious. More traditional and just as popular was the barbecuing, through which Juneteenth participants could share in the spirit and aromas of their ancestors. The newly emancipated African Americans would have experienced during their ceremonies all the smells that they grew up with as slaves. They weren't allowed to even grow their own food sometimes. They were only allowed to eat what they were given. So they had to be ingenuitive. They had to create things. And sometimes when you're little, you don't realize you're eating stuff that are only because you're poor. It's just, that's what mom makes. And so you want that. And so all of that, they got to bring all that back. And I love that a lot of those things are still celebrated today. The newly emancipated African Americans also would do these ceremonies to their ancestors, more praying to their ancestors. And I love that they did the retelling of the stories. The center of the attention at almost all Juneteenth is the barbecue. Food is abundant because everyone always prepares a special dish from growing up from their ancestors and brings it. Meats such as lamb, pork, and beef, which were not available every day for this population. These were very rich meats. They were too expensive, but they were brought to the true Juneteenth. It was, everybody brought their best. They dressed their best, their Sunday best. That's what it was all about. I want to stress, the dress is as important of an element in early Juneteenth customs as is often still taken seriously, particularly by the direct descendants who can make the connection to this tradition's roots. During slavery, there were laws on the books in many areas that prohibited or limited the dressing of the enslaved. They couldn't wear their traditional dress. They couldn't do their hair traditional. They couldn't wear their hair dressing traditional. They couldn't do these things. They weren't allowed. And during the initial days of emancipation celebrations, there are accounts of former slaves tossing their ragged garments, they're naked, into the creeks and rivers and adorning themselves with clothing taken from the plantations belonging to their former masters. Like, they were like, fuck this, I'm about to get cute. Like, I have been dirty and gross and enslaved my whole life, and I want to feel like the beautiful person I am. And so that's why the dress is so important. And I think that, I like dressing nice. I get it. I love that this has been documented. And so a lot of that traditional dress that their ancestors, who it hadn't been generations and generations and generations. Some of them had been like the first generation children born here from slaves. So the parents knew all of their traditions from back home still. And I think that, there was still slave trading going on, actually. Well, this was Okay. Juneteenth in society. In the early years, little interest existed outside the African American community in participation with these celebrations. In some cases, there was outwardly exhibited resistance by barring the use of property for these festivities. Most of the festivities found themselves out in rural areas around rivers and creeks that could provide for additional activities such as fishing, horseback riding, and barbecues, of course. Often, church grounds were the site for such activities since no one else would let them have it there. Eventually, as African Americans became landowners, land was donated and dedicated for these Juneteenth festivities specifically. One of the earliest documented land purchases in the name of Juneteenth was organized by Reverend Jack Yates. This fundraising effort yielded $1,000 and made possible the purchase of Emancipation Park in Houston, Texas. $1,000. That's amazing. In Mexia, the local Juneteenth organization purchased Booker T. Washington Park, which had become the Juneteenth celebration site in 1898. There are accounts in history books of Juneteenth activities being interrupted and halted by white landowners demanding that their laborers return to work. However, it seems most allowed their workers the day off, and some even made donations of food and money. For decades, these annual celebrations flourished, growing continuously with each passing year. In Booker T. Washington Park, as many as 20,000 Black Americans once attended during the course of a week, making the celebration one of the largest up until, at that time. This is where I want to read a little bit of my research. So in the late 19-teens to the 1930s, those large-scale celebrations that were community-wide and involved everyone in these communities actually became less frequent and with less people. People continued to celebrate in their homes and in their churches or in their smaller communities, but those huge countywide celebrations almost completely became non-existent. Why? Well, what was going on in the US at this time? World War I had just ended. There's Black men fighting fascism overseas and coming home and having to use the back door and having to use colored only bathrooms, having to watch movies in the movie theater upstairs behind the projector. And, so there's a lot of that. There's segregation. There's laws that have been put into the harshest policies. We all know them as Jim Crow. Nationalism was becoming a thing, and the slave patrols, well, they didn't have a job anymore. They became the police. Combining this rejection of outsiders, this fear of foreigners, and bigoted racism and segregation and Jim Crow laws led many whites and even some blacks, to see Juneteenth as an un-American, as unpatriotic. Does that sound familiar? Kind of like Colin Kaepernick, and it worked. It worked on even some of the Black people. Their reasoning, because it focused on this very dark period in American history. At that same time, the U.S. was trying to show the world. Remember, we've gone over this here on LEAH. World War I was mostly an imperialist war. So we're at that time. We're trying to show that we are a world power, and we got these uppity Black people trying to get all their rights to vote and stuff, and celebrate this Juneteenth when they, got their rights. So we don't want to talk about that. We don't want the world to know about that. That's what was going on. So while they were trying to show that they were a great power, the U.S., full of promise and democracy, freedom and pride, Juneteenth celebrations dampened this preferred look of great democracy, a shining beacon on a hill, as the saying goes. So celebrating Juneteenth, according to this, showed that you were disloyal to the U.S. Not only did Juneteenth celebrate this truly dark time in the country's history, but those were also some very dark times, because this is during the Red Summer. So I can't get into the Red Summer. That would have to be its own show. It was a wave of deadly lynchings and race riots that occurred here in our beautiful country from 1919 to 1921. And so that's going on at the same time we're trying to be a shining beacon on the hill and a world power. But Juneteenth is the spirit of freedom. June 19th, just one day, it encompasses this amazing spirit of freedom, of no matter how many years you keep somebody down, eventually things will work out. And I do have to say, things are wrong right now, very wrong. We have a lot of things going on, but there's a book, I'm sure you're all well aware of it, Better Angels. We are actually doing a lot better than we have been throughout. You know, history is this long continuing line. It goes up and down and up and down. But our ups and our downs are more of a smooth line than they were in the past. Vikings invading entire, you know, it's different now. So we are on the right path in many areas, just not on others. Go ahead.
Are you referring to Steven Pinker's
Yes. Yeah.
Better Angels of Our Nature?
Yes.
I love that one.
Yeah,
Also,
I listened to it and I felt so good. Like the facts show that we are moving in the right way. There's a lot fucked up.
Yeah, there is.
We have to step back from because we're just this big in this time, this one little time. There's going to be so much more time. And if we look at it from the beginning to now, we are doing so much better. Obviously, I can go to the kitchen and turn the water on and wash my hands. I don't have to walk to the river.
Right. But also, it's like, I mean, I think a really good name for that book for like someone who doesn't know what it's about is would be an evolution of our morals and etiquette. It's just like it's just a walk through, from history to now.
Yeah.
It
is a very important book to read, especially if you care and you want to have a more critical view, a more informed view of. It puts things in perspective. Yes, shit is fucked up right now. However, having all of that information and knowledge and paying attention to history, I know that there's ways that we can make this better. So, sip of coffee and back to Juneteenth.
Yeah. So I want to say a quick thing real quick because I've been thinking it for like the last 20 minutes since we got on Dixiecrats. I just feel like I know their slogan.
Oh no.
Oh no, she says.
Oh no.
Rightfully, she says, oh no. Mac, no. Dixiecrats. We believe in rights and property rights, just not your property having rights.
Or you have or rights over any property. Yeah. All right.
I mean, your property can't have rights because they are property.
Right. Yes.
So yeah, there you go. Little little dash of uncomfortable in there. All right.
Everyone should be uncomfortable with,
should be.
Yeah, absolutely. It should make you uncomfortable so that you want to do your part to make it comfortable for everyone. And not comfortable as in just easing and putting it up, sweeping it under the rug comfortable. No, get it all out there. And those uncomfortable feelings that people have about the word racism, about racist anything, are important to talk about. It's important to talk about. And some people will always be. There are people today, when interviewed, say that they still believe that Black people are the reason that's where all the crime's coming from. And you can't convince them otherwise. There are 43 million Black people in America. They make up a little bit less than 12% of our entire population. Right? Get over it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Grow up. Put on your big girl panties. All right. Like I said, Juneteenth is the spirit of freedom, and it refuses to die. Renaissance that happens for Juneteenth shortly before the U.S. goes to World War II. Okay, so this time period, 1930s to 1970s. I'm going to cover a lot. I put a lot. there's so much information for you guys. If you guys are Nacho, actually, I sent him a link that should be available for you guys to a lecture. A professor, a doctor is talking about Juneteenth, and it's amazing. I mean, she just really goes into it, and it's recent. It's so good. Please watch it. Please watch it. I believe it is a little over 30 minutes. It's under an hour, but it is so important. Even if you only listen to it because it's Juneteenth, please just do that. Do yourself and educate yourself by watching that. Okay. 1930s to 1970s. The catalyst for this renaissance for Juneteenth is a man named Antonio Maceo Smith. He's an educator. He's the head of the Dallas Negro Chamber of Commerce. I'm so glad we don't use that anymore. And he's trying to lead the efforts to create this commemoration or exhibit of African American life and culture. That's what he wants. Okay, so for the Texas 150-year anniversary for Juneteenth, I think that's legit, of course. Why wouldn't you want to put up a commemoration? It's 150 years anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. That's amazing. He wanted to do this because of being a free human in these United States in 1936. That was his reason. That's a pretty good reason to me. The state fairground organizers refused. I mean, they weren't even going to talk about it. They were not going to put up an exhibit on African American life and culture. Get the fuck out of here. It's pretty much probably what they told him with other words. Smith doesn't give up, though. Instead, he goes above their heads and straight to the federal government. He actually receives $100,000 grant. He uses this money to build the Hall of Negro Life on the state fairgrounds. Local white leaders protested the construction, of course. They didn't want the hall there, but there was nothing that they could legally do. This Hall of Negro Life, as it was called, was completed and dedicated on June 19th, aka Juneteenth, 1936. Over 46,000 Black Americans came into the state fairgrounds that year for the largest ever Juneteenth celebration up to that time. So we had one up to that time and now another one, even bigger. The hall was demolished, unfortunately, soon after the state fair closed, but that spirit was rekindled. You could not stop that. This spirit that these 46,000 people came and received this fire under their ass to take Juneteenth back home and to spread this message of freedom. And Juneteenth, because of this, Juneteenth spirits was revived all over the county and even the world. There are many places where initially many slaves, when set free, got their first ticket back to Africa. And so Juneteenth is also celebrated in many places in Africa. Black Americans were fighting two wars during this time. In the 1940s, they were fighting fascism abroad and they were fighting racism at home. I put notes here for me to tell you about, when you're in the military, you're all brothers and you're on a team together and you're fighting for your life. And in this time, World War II, we weren't doing, joystick bomb dropping. It was going in troops. And then to come home and you're not even allowed to use the front door of the drugstore to pick up your prescription, or, what if you have to go to the bathroom? You're not allowed. Those two wars were almost, I can't imagine the history of being, I do put myself in other people's shoes, and I do imagine what it would feel like to fight for one's country and come back to the country you were fighting for and have them just not even give a F about you. Lynchings, you can't even drink the same water because you're gross. If you use a bathroom, it's considered now, a Black person used it. It can only be for Black people now because it's gross. I just, putting myself in the shoes of someone who did that, how brave, very brave American heroes right there. And they also, many of them went to this Juneteenth celebration. So they took this with them, this Juneteenth celebrations with them. And fighting fascism abroad and racism at home, you know, is enormous. And white people of the 1940s, the very poor white people of the 1940s understood this, but the rest, there's no way. I mean, obviously, or something would have been done about it. Juneteenth celebrations throughout the 1940s and 50s really highlighted this idea of equal rights. So this is pre-civil rights, but leading up to. So when I tell you guys, you know, stay in the streets, we've been, we had a huge protest in 1992 against capitalism. You know, this has been going on. This isn't something new. So this is the same. This is how this civil rights has been building and building. Juneteenth was just a way to celebrate the freedom that they had in paper, but not in reality. And so now we have the 40s and 50s, and we're coming home from World War II, going into the Cold War, and they don't understand that we just fought another war for you and helped you win against fascism. And I'm not allowed to, I have to take tests to see if I can vote. And you're asking me questions that the white person next to me wouldn't be able to answer. I mean, it was a very, very, very unjust time. And Juneteenth had a huge, what is the word? It helped move along the nonviolent, the freedom through nonviolence. And this is through the 50s. The 1950s and 1960s, we have civil rights and Juneteenth. Okay, so organizers of the 1968 Poor People's March, which I've covered, held a Solidarity Day rally, and they held it on Juneteenth. And Black Americans attended from all over the country. And after they returned home, they revived their Juneteenth celebrations again. So you can see this coming up and going down and coming up and going down. But now this time, after the poor people and civil rights, and everybody has TVs now and they've seen what gets done to Black people, there's a massive movement. So this particular Juneteenth celebrations that were in the 1968 Poor People's March, that one really, really started the Juneteenth that we see and celebrate today. They revived the Juneteenth celebrations back home, and you started seeing whole communities again celebrating Juneteenth. 1970s focused more and more on heritage, history, Black pride, and activism. Think about the 70s, you know, Black Power, and that whole generation, they embraced education. Juneteenth became even more about education and educating our young about actual factual history in the 1970s. Houston was among the first of Texas's cities to rekindle more of those large county-wide celebrations that started off this movement holiday celebration. And they did this with an annual blues festival in Herman Park starting in 1973 that still goes on today. By the 1980s, states throughout the country held these major Juneteenth celebrations. They included music, art, dancing, food, expressions of African American heritage, and of course the barbecue. And so again, Trump, you did not make this famous. Al Edwards, A.L. Edwards, in 1979, a Democrat living in Houston, introduces a House Bill 1016. This bill's purpose was to make Juneteenth a state holiday for the entire state. Everybody gets paid for it. A coalition of people of color in Congress helped fight for this bill, and Texas becomes Texas becomes the first state to make Juneteenth a state holiday. June 7th, 1979, it was passed into law. I implore all of you to listen to the speech that is linked. It's titled History of Juneteenth, presented by Dr. Shanette Garrett Scott Her program follows the history of Juneteenth events from the late 19th century, freedmen's colonies, and settlements, all the way through celebrations to the present community events that we see today. Learn your history, guys, because Black history is American history, which if you are an American is your history. And if you live in another country, it's still part of your history because you're part of the human community. And these things are important things to fight for. Happy June 19th and Black Lives Matter. So that's what I have for Juneteenth. Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth, everyone. And celebrate it every year. Put it on your calendar. If you open it to June when you buy a new one and it doesn't have Juneteenth on there, put it in there. Like, or don't buy that calendar. That calendar is whack. Put it down.
That was awesome, Christy. I've listened to a handful of things the last couple of days on Juneteenth, and I think yours right there was by far like the deepest. I'd heard like a lot of that, but a lot of it was sprinkled in here, and then some of it was over there, some of it was over here, but you just kind of consolidated everything really, really well. So
yes, I like to celebrate freedom. Wait, there's a holiday that celebrates freedom that's not 4th of July. We have dog. You guys know Mr. Bean. He's terrified. He shakes and hides in the bathtub when fireworks go off. So I no longer enjoy the 4th of July. So I think that I'm just going to celebrate freedom. Like, I'm going to look forward to Juneteenth every single year, like everyone should, because and take your time to listen to these stories of people who were there. It's documented. It's beautiful. To hear first word, first eye account, I was there, these stories, it's quite beautiful. I love walking through history. I feel like I learn more about everything through history. I think everyone should love history. Let's see. I do have one more. I do have for modern times, and it's just from the official Juneteenth website. Today, Juneteenth is enjoying a phenomenal growth rate. I wanted to let you guys know this, though. Within communities and organizations throughout the county, institutions such as the Smithsonian and the Henry Ford Museum, I have problems with Ford, but I'll let it slide, and others have begun sponsoring Juneteenth-centered activities. In recent years, a number of local and national Juneteenth organizations have arisen to take their place alongside older organizations, all with the mission to promote and cultivate knowledge and appreciation of Black American history and culture. Juneteenth today celebrates African American freedom and achievement while encouraging continuous self-development and respect for all cultures and peoples. As it takes on a more national symbolic, and even global perspective, the events of 1865 in Texas are not forgotten, for all of the roots tie back to this fertile soil from which a national day of pride is growing. The future of Juneteenth does look bright, as the number of cities and states creating Juneteenth committees continues to increase. Respect and appreciation for all of our differences grow out of exposure and working together, getting involved and supporting Juneteenth celebrations with your community creates new bonds of friendship and understanding among us. This indeed brightens our future. And that, my friends, is the spirit of Juneteenth. Yeah. I love that I cannot say anything and do something silly and they only show your face.
And I'm just smiling over here.
Good stuff. All right, so our history lesson was fun. It's a celebration, but we do got to understand that it comes from a very, very, turbulent. It should be celebrated. The freedom should be celebrated, but we should also remember why we needed the freedom and the celebration.
Yeah. So no, it's
next
really important.
Stories are not going to be as fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of breeze through a few things. I didn't have a lot of time to do in-depth stuff, but I will give you some brief overviews. First thing that I want to touch on is something I didn't plan on covering until about, I don't know, a minute and a half ago. So I pulled up the article that I remembered. I was watching on, I think, MSNBC today, and one of the ladies on there read a full article, which I'm going to read part of for you. Maybe Christy knows what this one is. It's the one about Zuckerberg says he's disgusted by Trump's rhetoric. It's just crocodile tears. Have you heard that one? Yeah. Okay. Okay. She's taking a head. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Play a violin for.
Yeah. So, this whole article and the topic both made me twitch in weird ways. All right, so
that exact thing happens to me. Whatever just happened. Yes, when I hear some dumb shit come out of a world leader, I think that I might need to get it checked. I think I'm allergic. To dumb policies.
Yeah. So you're going. All right. So yeah, I think you're gonna also see that this article is a load of bullshit as well on it. So here we go, guys. I'm going to not read the whole thing. I'm going to mostly paraphrase and just give you what I'm frustrated about. Okay. This is
give it to me
from the Washington Post by Joe Scarborough.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna skip the intro. Basically, he's upset about the Facebook founder, Mark Zuckerberg, how he unconvincingly assured Americans he was, quotes, deeply shaken and disgusted by Trump's incendiary rhetoric, end quotation, which Zuckerberg's website promotes and profits from every second of every day. This is a real problem. It really is. Because Facebook doesn't censor equally, which makes it problematic on its face. But I don't like Facebook personally censoring just about anything, honestly, myself, which is where I come off not liking this whole article as we go on. You will see. Okay, next paragraph here. The Facebook founder failed to shed a tear while Russia-based operatives published at least 80,000 posts on his site throughout the 2016 election and beyond. The social media network later admitted that Russian propaganda it allowed to spread on its website reached as many as 126 million users. That's more than a third of the country. Even after the election, Zuckerberg dismissed as crazy any notion that Russian use of his site influenced the vote. A year later, Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg was told by the company, then security chief Alex Stamos, that Facebook had yet to contain the Russian infestation, and that's something that the New York Times had reported. Sandberg yelled at him for being disloyal. All right, so let me look here I don't want to read the entire article, really don't. It was pretty long. Scrolling down. You guys are missing a little bit of the meat, but I would just want you to get the gist of it here.
Right. And you can put the link in the chat too.
Oh yeah, I will do that actually. I'll do that right now. Still listen to me just like jabber, please. Open this later.
You remember Jabberjaw? They call me Jabberjaw. Please tell me someone remembers that cartoon. It's a shark. His name is Jabberjaw.
I don't.
Oh my gosh, I'm so
I
old.
don't.
Please tell me somebody in chat knows who
Chat, help her
Jabberjaw
out.
is. Please.
Okay.
You're too young for me, Mac.
Oh, Christy, don't say that. All right, so down the ways here, the more critical question now is why Congress continues to allow Silicon Valley billionaires such as Zuckerberg, Sandberg, and Twitter's Jack Dorsey, whose company is likewise not liable for its reckless and damaging practices, to rake in billions by publishing violent rhetoric, deadly misinformation, deranged conspiracy theories, and foreign interference that debase America's culture. I don't even know what that word. Culture and blah, blah, blah. It's political debate and erode our very democracy. So the main beef here is that these social media platforms do not censor certain people enough. They do not censor certain opinions enough. And because of that, it erodes our politics and our very democracy. That is a non sequitur. That doesn't actually follow. That's to hear more voices, even if they're dissenting voices or wrong opinions. In a democracy, you want people to have a way to say that stuff, to spout out their shit. You want that for a healthy democracy.
Yes.
You also want people to be educated.
Yes.
That doesn't have anything really to do with the free speech thing. That's a whole different thing. That's we need to talk about.
They love
education.
to cry that though. They love to cry that. I think that the number one thing conservative strawman is the First Amendment. It just is. I'm sorry, the government is not telling you can't do it. Therefore, it is not a First Amendment. If people are telling you that they don't like it, that's their First Amendment right to tell your First Amendment right. Fuck off. You can tell them fuck off too. But the government didn't do shit. It's not a First Amendment problem. They don't get it.
So my solution to this, because I have a solution for this, which I think you should have a solution
Get your
to
pencils
this.
and paper. Everybody
there you
take
go.
notes.
Did you say pretzels and paper? Because that's what I heard.
Of course. Who doesn't write with their pretzel?
I write with a pretzel.
I did my whole story out with the pretzel.
Like to write with the little bow tie ones.
Ooh,
or the alphabet ones. You can really get some shit done there.
The cup of them from the mall. The little bites with the cinnamon.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Annie Mae's.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Off topic.
All right. Anyways.
Hey, it's Juneteenth. We should be celebrating with good food.
With pretzels. But,
and strawberry soda.
Oh, yes. I've had strawberry soda. I love it.
It's delicious.
It really is. Okay, so the solution here, I think Kyle Kalinske said it. I think Joe Rogan's in favor of it, and a whole bunch of other lefties. But I think it makes perfect sense to more or less, what's the right word? You make these a public platform. Like you take away, right? You take away the private ownership and the private incentive for these platforms. Facebook for Twitter, maybe Instagram, mostly Facebook and Twitter, though, because these are places where people go to debate, to share their
Yeah,
feelings.
it should be like public libraries.
Yeah.
As
These
I
are
scroll through a cloud.
platforms.
Stop it.
Christy's floating away. But yeah, it's not. And so I really want to be clear when I say this, because I don't want the government to take over Facebook and Twitter and stuff in such a way that they control what you see on there and who they censor. That's not something we want. Like this needs to be something that is just a public platform. It can't really be censored. Like there has to be real strict guidelines, and I mean strict on the guidelines, like very, very strict on the guidelines of what can't be shown.
Well,
like
this is unprecedented, policy area. We've never had tech companies that were part of communications. And nobody has on the whole planet. This is all new, as far as nobody knew Facebook, this web page for college students, would take over the planet. Nobody first saw that. However, it did. And now that it has, I am a firm believer in not breaking apart monopolies, because they make it unfair. I am not a capitalist. I believe in a mixed economy, and that involves capitalism. And I want there to be actual competition. Actual competition. And that's not, I think that we are what's for sale. That was a hard thing for me to learn. Our data is actually worth millions, even billions to some places. I think that whoever holds that power of, every country has Facebook, just about. And there are many that have restrictions. They have Facebook with restrictions. And the fact that Zuckerberg would allow, I'm sorry, if I made a company and it was an app such as Facebook and Saudi Arabia wanted to use it, I would say you can, but however, these are the things that you can't do, or you can't have this app, like cutting people's heads off, FGM, there's letting women drive, women getting to vote, voting, period. Like there would be so many things. He has too much power, and he hasn't used it not one time for the betterment of humanity. Like he says he does. His commercials say that they bring us all together, but data shows, sure, I can talk to my mom, and I love memories on Facebook. I just, it opens up, and 6 years ago, this is what you were doing. I love that it does that for me. But I don't love my data being sold, or anyone's being sold. That's too much power for one person to have. And as of right now, that only one person is in control of all of that. That's insane.
Yeah.
It should be broke up. You're right. And I don't know how. That's what we need to debate on. But it should be like everyone needs to agree that it should be broke up somehow, put in the people's hands. No more data mining. None.
We could use some of that democracy that Joe Scarborough is so worried about and figure out what to do about it. But we would need a place to go to where we could all voice our opinions, and no one could be shut down.
It's so hard to watch him, though. Him and Mika, it's so hard to watch. It just is. Watching Mika and him, I would rather take my nails and go down a chalkboard. I think they're just, they're not a part of the solution to anything. They're never going to actually be critical of class issues, the actual issues. They're just not. So, but yeah, I do sometimes, maybe once or twice a week, check in on Mika and her pet boy, her pet conservative. Yeah. I have in my mind a whole alternate, like, she's the dom and he's a sub, and they have this like that. That's how I that's why I can't watch them. Like,
Maybe you're right.
I have this whole
Maybe you're right.
alternate life for them.
Yeah, they're ones that I don't really watch much, so I don't really see
Right.
the dynamic. But next time I see them on, I'm gonna look for that dynamic, and then I'm gonna text you and be like, "Christy, you're totally right."
Okay,
She's totally the
listen,
dom."
type in Saturday Night Live, Mika and whatever his name is, I forgot already.
Joe Scarborough.
Yes, Mika and Joe. Saturday Night Live, Mika and Joe. And watch the like 6 or 7 different videos they have. You'll never be able to watch it again. It's so good. Actually, you'll probably thank me for telling you about it.
We go.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
Oh,
They do a really good job of ruining it for you.
We will all thank you in advance.
Yes, please. Everyone watch it though. It is really funny. They do Mika. I mean, the girl who does Mika is Stacy and I's favorite, one of our favorite actors. So you really should check that out. Mika and Joe on Saturday Night Live. Yeah, there's a few, and they're all really funny and awkward, really awkward.
All right, I'm gonna try to do this one real quick if I can. There it is.
Yeah.
John Bolton.
Oh.
Okay, we're done. All I could do. Okay, for those of you who don't know who John Bolton is, this man is one of the main men who lied us into Iraq.
Yes.
He
he is
has
a warhawk.
never met a war he didn't like.
Yeah.
He is personally, I think I can say personally, responsible for the deaths of what should I just shoot low and say hundreds of thousands?
I'd say millions.
Shoot low and say millions. Okay, yeah. And
yeah.
Just to give you a taste, what Obama killed how many people with drone strikes? I don't know how many, but a lot.
I don't remember either. Yeah, I know.
I remember the percentage that were civilians.
I remember the percentage that were civilians,
which was 90%.
Yes.
Civilians, and those are just drone strikes, and that is just what John Bolton's politics leads to. All right, that's just something that it leads to. Anyways, everyone's forgetting.
He was involved with the Central American, the death militias that would go. He is like Max said, he's never met a war that he didn't want to be a part of. So.
We wanted to do a whole show on John Bolton at one point. We never have we?
No, that he has enough. He's done enough to fill a book. Yeah,
he has just written a book titled "The Room Where It Happened," and that's where this is going. And if you guys don't remember, I think most of you do. John Bolton was the Secretary of State for LEAH, right? Yeah, and he really was pushing Trump to start a war with Venezuela. That whole thing was Christy.
Who am I?
John Bolton.
Thank you. Okay.
I recognize that stash anywhere. All right. This man wants to invade Venezuela so bad that he's just upfront about it. Like, I'm going to paraphrase what he said, like on live television, which is Nicolas Maduro is a dictator, and we need to go down there and give these people democracy. And wouldn't it be great if we had American companies taking care of their oil? Like, woo! Yeah, that's just what he does.
He said the things you're supposed to keep quiet. He said
out loud.
Out loud.
And he said it multiple times.
Yep. That's his ideology. His ideology is that similar to a modern day Columbus, conquer and plunder and conquer.
Yeah.
The more territory that you have, the better. It's gross.
Yeah. It's John Bolton, Elliot Abrams, people of the like are why we really have an oligarchy. They really feed this oligarchy, and that is why this country is literally, by definition, an empire.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, I don't like this guy. So yeah, anyways, everyone's forgetting about all the lies and all the deaths he's responsible for right now, because he's written a book about Donald Trump and how awful he is, and all of those stupid things he saw him do while he was his Secretary of State. And Trump has threatened to sue Bolton for giving out sensitive information, classified information, which he is deeming is anything that has to do with the President of the United States. I mean, anything that has to do with the President of the United States. And everyone's on Bolton's side because Trump's the big bad guy, right?
Yeah.
He's the village idiot.
Orange man bad.
Yeah, orange man bad. Look, who is it that said this recently? Dylan Radigan. He's the village idiot. Cool. You've pointed out that guy is a dummy.
Yeah.
Good for you. Do we just need to focus on that? We don't have any other problems except picking on the
It's not like a worldwide pandemic going on right now.
We get it. Yeah. So we have a pandemic. We're at Great Depression levels of unemployment. We have I can't remember what else. Right? Oh, the riots. Yeah, the riots. We have John Bolton not in prison, and Elliot Abrams
not in prison.
Hillary Clinton. Honestly, all of them should be in prison. They're all war criminals, and Obama's counted in there. So is Trump. Right. So is.
Well, you did see that a whole petition went out to the International Criminal Court to come in to. It was signed by a lot of people to come in and to investigate police brutality in the United States of America. Now, Trump is not going to allow them in. However, they don't need his permission underneath the Geneva Convention. They can do their investigation from over there with people that are here.
The International
I really hope they do that. Yes, and it's for when we see a country hurting its own people when they're protesting, and we get the International Criminal Court involved.
Yeah,
that's what's going on. Yeah, it's called equal justice, no matter who.
We wanted the International Criminal Court. They wanted to investigate us 8 months ago
for war crimes.
For war crimes. Was that for Venezuela or?
It's still going. It's still going.
And it is still going.
It's for Afghanistan and Iraq.
Gotcha. And for those of you who don't remember, Mike Pompeo was no one from the International Criminal Courts are coming in here and
that's some
messing with our stuff. There. That's no, we don't need that. We don't need that. You guys stay away. They told the International because we're so good that you don't need to look this way.
They wouldn't have let them, they were threatening them. You're not going to get off the plane if you land here. These
are all reasons why I hate nationalism
And imperialism.
Well, yes, but mostly just blind national pride. I hate it
Right, I
because
didn't choose
we
which
live on the greatest
vagina
country
I
on
got
earth, so
pushed
why
out
would
of.
they have to?
You didn't
Say what?
either. You didn't get to choose which vagina you got pushed out of, or what country that vagina happened to be located when you got pushed out of. Like, nobody decides that. Hindu
No.
babies don't decide that. In India, Puerto Ricans don't decide that. In Puerto Rico, nobody decides that. It's just whatever vagina and wherever it's located. And so if where your mother's vagina is located when you were born is so special, you're gonna have to explain that one to me because I
Right.
don't see that.
Right. Main point being, like, everyone wants to live on the greatest place on earth. Right?
Disney World?
Just because you want it doesn't mean that's where you are.
Right.
And I mean, you live pretty close to Disney World. You could say that. You could be happy.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to be born. I was very fortunate to be born in Iowa in the United States of America. Definitely. I could have been born anywhere, Yemen. That unfortunately is even worse than the last time we spoke about it, which we should bring that up soon. A lot has happened.
Yeah.
They're starving to death right now. Yeah. So yeah, where your mother's vagina is located at the day you were born does not have anything to do with your magnificence. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. You're your own person. If your dad was great at something, that's amazing. You have an awesome dad. You're your own person. If your dad was horrible at something, that's really sad. I hope he didn't get away with it. I hope he's put away if he did horrible things. But that doesn't have anything to do with you. You're your own person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't want to go into the book right now. I really don't. He has a book out. It probably has a few really good tidbits in there.
I think it's like 600 pages.
It's like
400 or 600. Yeah, it's massive.
Okay. There we go. So it's big. It's got stuff, and one of his biggest issues, I think he points out in the book, is that back when Iran shot that drone down, like back in November, when we almost went to war with Iran because we had a drone flying in their airspace and we were provoking them.
Right.
It was
without
unmanned and they shot it down.
Yeah.
Trump didn't do a strike back. He pulled out on the last second, and it spared at least 12 Iranian military lives, because that probably would have pushed us closer to war. They shot down an unmanned drone in their airspace, and we had been provoking them. And Bolton said that was the most atrocious thing he's ever seen a president do, is not attack Iran for that. And
yeah, Bolton's he's a garbage person.
He's a fucking psychopath.
Think of Columbus. He has the Columbus mentality. I'm telling you, the colonizer mentality, that conquer and plunder. That's his mentality.
And America
I can't wait until those people have died off. I know there will be still always some, but there is a huge age group of, Warhawk, neocon, America. It doesn't matter what we do anywhere else, as long as it all comes back to me, not actually my country. Those people, I really can't wait until they die off, because they are in Trump's age group. They're in his age group, his particular age group.
Yeah. So,
vote,
anyways,
they all vote every time.
Yeah. Anyways, the they've already sent out 200,000 copies of the book to resellers, and we'll see where this goes. I'm sure there's going to be developments. I'm going to be paying attention to it.
Yeah, I've read some of the
See how they react.
The sections that have been, put out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it pretty bad?
Yeah. Yeah. Trump asked China to help him win the re-election in front of a room full of people.
Yeah, I heard about that, and that I also heard was like potentially could have just been as simple as, hey, if we do this and do this, this will help me win re-election kind of stuff. And that's what presidents do sometimes. They make deals with countries.
I agree with that. I agree.
Yeah.
No, I do. I agree with that.
Mm.
It's just
the way he does things is ridiculous. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I get that. And but also it's just like, he's the village idiot. Like, what do you want?
Yeah. The main thing I got from the main thing I took away from the parts that I've read from the book is that every, I guess, the lesson from each segment is he's unequipped for this job, that he is an idiot, that he has no knowledge whatsoever about government. He thinks it is like he is almost like a king and people should do things for him. That's why at 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, all throughout the daytime when the president should be working, he's actually tweeting, and what he's tweeting correlates with what is live on TV at that time, and what he's tweeting is about what they're saying on that show. So he is sitting at home watching TV and tweeting about it. Like you get that a lot, that he doesn't understand basic maps about, he doesn't understand that, not just the village idiot, more than that, he's a confident village idiot, and that's dangerous.
I just feel like
he's a very stable genius.
He is a very stable genius. I can see his staff just like trying to get him up, like away from the TV. He's like, Mr. President, please come on. You have to come out and do president things, please.
Yeah.
And he's just like laying back. Shut up. Get your own part-time job. I'm busy.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done.
There's a channel called Now This, and I will if you guys want me to link.
It's a decent channel.
Well, this particular video too, it just is a factual timeline of from November to now and the coronavirus. That's all it is. It's just what we knew on each date and what our president was doing on each one of these dates with the sources, there's so many of the days where big numbers of people are dying and new information is coming and our president's golfing. So many of them are golfing. Supposed to have a brief, canceled it, went golfing. Just there's lots of that. And it's not an opinion piece. It's just a timeline of coronavirus and every bit of information as we learned it, when we learned it, and then what he was doing during all of that time. And it's fucking mind-blowing.
I kind of just want to be president someday so I can be remembered as the one president who didn't golf. I wouldn't want to go one time.
Yeah, I'm not hating on anybody who likes to golf. My ex-husband loved it. My grandpa.
It's so boring.
Yeah, and I agree. Don't get me. I have no desire to go play golf ever. I've done it. I'm just like, seriously, and then you just keep doing this. Like after the first one or second one, I'm like, really? How many more? 18?
I get sick of putt-putt.
Hell world.
Hell
Right.
world.
Hell world. Exactly. Can't handle it.
I can like handle it. It's like it's okay. It's just like not what I'd pick to do for fun or to like relax.
Right,
Like,
it's
oh,
hot
cool. Let's go get
outside.
frustrated and miss the hole 15 times.
And it's hot outside. Oh my gosh. Okay. Everybody
Tell me about it.
knows I live in Florida. This is just locally this happened. Stacy is a disc golfer. You throw the disc into the basket. It's sport. She
Sounds
loves
way
it.
funner.
Tons of discs. And she has the basket outside that you practice. Disc golf is actually a big thing here in Florida and many other places too. Well, we have alligators everywhere. I mean, like everywhere because they live here. This is where they live. We have dinosaurs that live with us here. So there's that. And then disc golfers also. Well, recently, someone who Stacy and her friend played with, he lost the disc because it is a golf course. Disc golf is golf. You're just playing with baskets and frisbees essentially. But don't call them frisbees. They freak out. They're discs for the yeah, he went after
I call it frisbee.
Oh, not after his. I'm sorry. He likes to go out and try to. People lose their discs in the water, and these discs are expensive. You know, they're starting at like 20 and up each.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, some of them are like 50 and 60 bucks each. Some of them even more. Well, he likes to fish them out of the water, and he got bit in the face by an alligator.
Bean did?
No, the man.
What?
Likes
Man.
to get.
Oh, okay. Where'd I get Bean in
like
there? I'm
Stacy
sorry.
knows that
Jesus.
she's played with, not played next to, but on the same tournament.
Did he like punch that alligator in the face?
I don't know what he did, but he had to go to the hospital and
What, for a little alligator bite?
for a little alligator bite. They
What a
haven't
wimp.
shown any pictures.
I'd bite
yet.
him back and go home and watch
I wish you
Crocodile
could.
Dundee.
Listen,
Steve Irwin.
when it floods that area, Stacy was just telling me that when it rains hard here in Florida. It rains hard, torrential rain pouring. And so it floods almost everywhere. And the baskets are about 4.5, 5 feet tall. And it will flood so that you only see the top part of the basket. So the water's like 4.5 feet of water, and alligators just swimming by those baskets. And the same part when it's not flooded, 4 feet of water. That's just so scary that there's alligators everywhere in Florida. Be careful if you come here.
Yeah.
Just don't go near the water edge. Any of them. Don't let your dog walk down by water edges. Many dogs every year get snatched by gators. Kids too.
Oh, don't say that.
No, seriously.
Christy, I know you're serious. That's why I didn't want
I mean, alligator. We live with actual dinosaurs. Not all of them went extinct. I can prove it. They live here. They're scary as fuck.
Yeah, and they get hungry. They're just trying to eat.
Or they just don't like you sticking your hands in their home.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Oh, last week I reached a year, everyone, and I forgot to even mention it. It was 52 weeks last year. Last week. So now I'm
congratulations.
I'm a year and a week. Yeah, it looks like this is going to stay being brown. There's nothing I'm gonna be able to do about it. And then everything else, everywhere else, is silver. So
very cool.
That. Yeah, it's gonna
that
look
looks awesome.
I can't wait. It kind of looks like it's on purpose now, which I'm glad I got to, because for a while, everywhere I went, I'm like apologizing. Stacy has cool hair because I do her hair, all these crazy colors. Oh, who does your hair? And she's like, my wife does, and I'm like, don't look at mine. I promise I know how. I'm just not doing it. Yeah. But
Not
now it
just
looks
said,
like it's on purpose.
yeah, not just said in our chat in here. The two-tone looks awesome.
Thank you, Nacha. Yeah, it does. And it's right next to a very, very white stripe. So I have the dark stripe next to the white stripe. It's pretty cool. These are in the sunlight. This looks like platinum. Like, I know the lighting in here is not making them look, but you see how white this is? It looks like jewelry in the sunshine. It's amazing. I can't wait. And then I've got to find like a superhero outfit.
There you go. There you go.
And then the league will be for real, for real. And a
There
cape.
you go.
You really want a cape.
Check out a silver sable or black cat.
Yeah, we gotta think of a good name.
Something for you.
Yeah.
All right. So last thing, real quick, because I'm real tired and I gotta wake up for work in 6 hours. One of the most important things that happened this week was the Supreme Court blocked Trump's bid to end Dhaka. So that's a win for undocumented dreamers. That's really, really awesome. That happened on Thursday, yesterday. And it says that it's if you don't know what DACA is, it stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. So anyone who's been here for a long time and they were brought here as children, so they didn't have a choice to come here and be illegal immigrants. They're just here because they were brought here by their family, but they have a home here now. They don't know their home country.
Right. They went to elementary school here, middle school here, high school here, college here.
Right.
Work here.
Extending this DACA program to make sure that they can live here and work here and more or less be considered citizens is extremely important. Because one, it's just the more humanist thing to do. Like, you don't want to uproot someone's life. Two, it would be extremely not healthy for their mental health, right? Like, picture this being doesn't matter why at all. It would feel the same to you if you are an American citizen who was born here. If you did something, government didn't like it, they pick you up and they're like, hey, we got to take you back to the land of your ancestors. And they're like, all right, ship you back here, like Scandinavia or something like that. But you don't know shit about Scandinavia. You don't know anything there. You don't know anyone there. That's how it is for most of these DACA.
They don't even speak the language.
They don't even
They're American.
Through and through.
Culture, the clothes, their friends. You know, they grew up. Actually, my daughters are 26, and Isabel. Jordan just turned 26 this month, and Isabel, the 26th of this month, will be 22. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So yeah, they're these ages, up to around 30 as well. And they've been here since they were little children. So yeah, I love this story.
Yeah, and so right now it seems like it's safe for them. They're going. The Trump administration is going to try again to get this repealed. He had a tweet, and I had it up just a little bit ago. He tweeted out, "We need more justices, or we will lose our Second Amendment and everything else."
Fear mongering.
Vote Trump 2020. He also said, "Do you get the impression that the Supreme Court doesn't like me?" Has he put in 3 justices now?
Yes.
3 justices, and he is
loves
bitching
to play the victim.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm not gonna focus on it.
That's what he sounds like.
Wait. Hey.
Yeah. No, actually, they just like the actual Constitution. That's what they like. That's
Right, they just
their
go
job
by
is.
the rules. I
They're
can't
just
remember.
going by the rules.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly why they said it couldn't pass. It was a good I really liked the reason.
Because it wasn't their job to ask the question that had been asked. They said that's not our job. Our job is to make sure that it was done, because Trump, took it away or whatever he did, said no, none of you can be citizens, left all of them terrified of deportation. They don't even know the lands that their parents ran from, because they were refugees to this country. I'm sure there were a few that weren't, but for the most part, they were fleeing disasters. And they were all terrified because Trump rescinded, well, the Supreme Court just said it wasn't their job to ask. Their job was to see if the way he did that was legal. Now, that doesn't mean Trump can't do it a different way, and he's going to try, and everybody knows that. It just means that the way that he did do it wasn't legal, and so the original policies are standing.
Yeah.
They're protected.
So there is going to be more on this. This fight isn't all the way over, but it's got a pretty thorough pulse right now. So that's a good thing. I also wanted to share a tweet from Barack Obama because I shared one from Trump. He said, 8 years ago this week, we protected young people who were raised as part of our American family from deportation. Today, I am happy for them, their families, and all of us. We may look different and come from everywhere, but what makes us American are shared ideals. So I remember watching Barack Obama make this announcement, and I didn't know anything about it beforehand. I just remember sitting on my parents' floor. I just so happened to be at their house, and it my parents like to watch the news. And I just remember sitting there, and I knew I didn't really know how they felt about him at the time, but I just kind of sat there. I didn't know anything about it. I listened to him talk and what this program's for. And I remembered at least my mom being upset about it because she must have heard bad things about this thing coming. And I'm just hold on, this sounds like a good thing. I think I agree with this, and I don't need to see any further. This is a pretty straightforward argument why he's extending things. This looks like a good thing. It makes sense on its face. And if it doesn't, I feel like you've just been prepped to make it sound like it's an awful thing.
Right.
And yeah, anyways, I didn't watch a lot of Obama
I did it.
stuff at all, but I remember that specifically, and that's something that's stuck with me for a long time. It's just seeing that. I'm like, oh, this is a really neat thing that I feel like I'm watching, and I'm glad that it's still upheld.
Yeah, I didn't watch a lot of the Obama stuff. Back when he was president, I listened to all of it. All of it. And I also was a magical thinker at that time. And so things that I would object to that he did, I would not object to now. And some things that I approved of that he did in his first 4 years, I would object to now. A lot has changed in my mind in the last 4 years. In the last 10 years, tremendous. In the last 15 years, I'm a totally different person.
I know what you mean.
As far as my, you know, not me, but as far as my beliefs and my understanding.
Ideology.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. You know, I remember saying things as a teenager. I'm sure I was just repeating rhetoric that I heard. That, you know, why can't we just, because watching the news, Clinton was president. I was a teenager. I remember talking to a friend on the phone, like I'm grown, talking about politics. You know, why can't they just run it like a business? I mean, come on, a business has a structure. There's somebody at the top. Yeah, everybody's got a job. Everybody makes. I don't understand why can't we get this done? And that's a very, very right conservative talking point. It's not a business. It's a country, and its job shouldn't be to profit off its people. Its job should be to, a government is only there for the people. If there were no people, there'd be no government. So, you know, the people should have a say in all of who and what governs over them. And I think that we're going to see a lot of changes. I look forward to reporting about that, or writing or presenting whatever I do here of the changes. There's actually been already some amazing positive changes and policy changes. You know, I don't care about, you know, the talk is, the rhetoric's different. That's great. I'll talk about that. We can bring that up. But what I get excited about is actions, policies. Policies are being written that would have been just 5 years ago considered radical and like, no fucking way, commie, get out of here, are being written up and you know, brought to reality. I'm so excited about some of those changes. And I think if you are watching this, or you know anybody who has been protesting, I thank you personally. I thank you. Cyber hugs. That, I mean, seriously, stay in the streets. It's the only way. It's the only way. And we have history as proof, because every time we gave in and went home, nothing happened. But when we stayed united, and we have never been more united, don't let them lie to you. Look at the protests. Look at the people. Every single type of person is protesting for the same thing, equal rights. It's so fucking beautiful, you guys. That can make me cry. Like, I'm just so ecstatic about the change that I'm seeing. If you watch, I have friends who, you know, they get their news from CNN only, and I want to fix that so bad. I want media literacy so bad, because if the whole country could see all of these amazing positive changes that I'm seeing in policy, and it be on the news that they get to ingest, they would have so much hope that they would participate instead of be scared of it, or there's riots, or it's scary. You know, I see more good than bad. And the people that are staying in the streets, the people that are putting their bodies out there for the sake of democracy for all, is beautiful. And I thank you. So if you guys know anybody who is protesting, tell them thank you. Seriously, thank you for your service. And if you can, you definitely should be also protesting. You know, I know some people cannot, and that's fine. There's other things that you can do. You can volunteer from your computer to do things. Just make sure that you're a part of this, because change is happening, and it is happening right now. And you know how I'm such a history buff. I feel like it's, when we are grandparents, we're going to have amazing stories to tell our grandchildren. And it could go really bad, and it could go really good. And so far I'm seeing really good. And it's going to be hard. Like I said, we saw a protest in 1992, and now it's 2020. Well, civil rights started in the early 1900s and didn't come to fruition until 1968. Didn't start seeing a difference until the 70s. It's going to be a long, long, hard road. So we're going to need hope. We're going to need each other. But I think that we're in the middle of what a lot of history books are going to call lots of crazy things. I'm excited to see what it is, but I hope you stay with us and then protest and then come back and see us on Friday and protest. If you know of any protests, share them. Share them around people. If you know any that are in your area, just go ahead and put, like, hey, did you guys know there was, even if just one more person goes that wouldn't have, I think we need everybody involved. I don't know. What do you think, Mac?
Something tells me I'm into something good. That's what I think. That's what I'm thinking in my head right now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yes,
no, yeah, I think we're on the right track. We need to try and keep up with the peaceful protests.
Yes.
And
I would like to cover the defund the police next week. What do you think about that? Because I think that there's a complete straw man out there of what it is.
Oh yeah, there's like 3 at least strong.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know what?
The name
honestly,
is supposed to be provocative.
Yes.
It's supposed to be provocative. Yeah.
We actually had a discussion about that at my parents' house last weekend.
It's an important conversation.
It was.
That's a lot of the good change I'm seeing in policy has to do with that. So yeah.
It just makes for good conversation. So, and there are straw men, but also some of those straw men are actually some people's actual views. Like there are different opinions on what defund the police means. And they're not all.
I think once it's in policy and you see, like, I know you're hearing this and this is your opinion and your ideology and your feelings, but this is what it is in policy. I think that a lot of people, just like with healthcare, Medicare for all, the whole country wants it. Yeah, there's a few that don't, but it's the majority of the country that wants it because it was explained to them so that they could understand how it would help them. And I think we can do the same thing with defund the police.
Yeah.
So yeah. Awesome. Good.
That sounds like a good plan. Defund the police next week.
Yeah.
All right. Until then,
Happy Friday.
I'm gonna go to bed until next Friday.
Look at that beautiful tattoo. Show that again.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I got too many things. Oh, my friend knows that I'm into like politics and stuff. So she got me a Black Lives Matter.
Beautiful. I tried to say beautiful and I love it. I said beauty.
Yeah. Yeah. She got me a Black Lives Matter
I love
wristband because she got like a couple extra. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And she was like, you want one?
Yes.
Like, oh yeah, I'll take one. It's great. So yeah, got that like I think yesterday, maybe today. My days are blending together. Good night. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Yeah. Stay human for godless sakes. For godless sakes, stay human.